Withdraw.
The gentleman withdraws his objection. The gentleman from Florida is recognized to speak on the amendment.
I'm glad that the ranking member has ripened the question of bribes from China. I think it's one that I would like to explore with Hunter Biden if he were willing to properly acknowledge and honor the subpoena that he'd received from the United States Congress. And if there's any comparison on the Trump policies toward China and the Biden policies toward China, I am eager to engage in that comparison because President Trump put tariffs on China. He was tougher on China than any Republican or Democrat president in my lifetime for sure. And what I've learned about studying bribes is that when people pay them, they typically want something in return. And so when you've got these allegations about Trump in China, you're able to easily compare that to a record where Trump cracked down on China. Now let's compare that to the Biden record. After the Biden China bribes, you get the Biden administration dissolving the China initiative that President Trump and his administration set up at DOJ to specifically go after and prosecute Chinese efforts to engage in malign influence with academia, with politicians, with high society. And I know we have members of this committee intimately familiar with Chinese malign influence. And we would want a DOJ resilient and capable to be able to ensure that no one fell victim to that, from the United States Congress to even service on a city council. Now, Hunter Biden had this interesting email exchange on his laptop related to China that I can't wait to ask him about when a judge ultimately orders him here or to a jail cell. Why was Hunter Biden hosting the annual meeting for his investment fund at the home of the Chinese ambassador? Seems like an odd choice. There are a lot of great venues in Washington that could host the meeting for your annual investment fund, but when you choose to do it at the home of the Chinese ambassador, that seems to send a pretty clear message that it's hard to figure out where China ends and the Bidens begin. And I found it particularly interesting that while Hunter Biden was personally setting up this special and unique venue to convince people to invest in his fund based on his close ties with the Chinese, that all he had to do to secure the venue was agree to a private one-on-one meeting with the ambassador beforehand, which the emails indicate Hunter was readily willing to do. So aren't the rest of you curious to know what the ambassador wanted to meet with Hunter Biden about before Hunter Biden used his Chinese relationships to enrich himself, his family, his relatives, his uncle, his father, to pay the bills, to run the Biden crime family? I'd like to know what was going on at that meeting.
Would the gentleman yield?
Sure.
Let me just say, it may very well be that what Hunter Biden was doing was wholly improper. It may very well be that what Hunter Biden was doing was criminal. There is a special prosecutor. What there isn't is any evidence that President Biden had anything to do with any of this.
Well, I would suggest that the ambassador from China probably wasn't requesting a one-on-one meeting with Hunter Biden to go over investment tips and investment strategies. And if we had Hunter Biden in the witness chair, we could ask him. So it's one thing to say, well, there's just no evidence here. And then when we want to ask simple questions, like, was the ambassador asking about Hunter Biden's art interests and whether he preferred oil paintings or watercolors? I'm guessing that's not the case. And the reason Hunter Biden doesn't want to be in that witness chair is because when confronted with the documents and the evidence, they are boxed in. Because everybody in this country knows what was going on. Hunter Biden was the bag man. He was collecting the money, and Joe Biden was the inside man. And he was delivering the results for China and anyone else that was willing to pay him off. And that's what we're trying to get to the bottom of. I yield back.
Gentleman yields back. The gentlelady from Indiana, Ms. Sparks, is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to make a couple brief remarks on just some of the issues that were brought up from other side and then kind of get to the subject. no, honestly, I agree. Last Congress, the other side passed a lot of very bad bills. I don't think quantity of bills is a good legislation, and actually wasted a lot of money. And unfortunately, they had control on whole houses and presidency and were able to do a lot of bad legislation and not dealing with real issues affecting Americans, crushing debt, inflation, and the spending, and what's happening in our border is very destructive for our country. And they don't want to do, and they don't even want to find bipartisan agreement on these issues, this Congress, which is very sad for me to see. I know there is a lot of discussions about, January 6th, and I've been in the chamber January 6th, and I'll tell you something, we call this insurrection. I'll have to tell you, if the people that show up there wanted to do it, they would have succeeded, but they didn't show up for that reason. It was people that were upset because the quality of people came there, they were mad because we are not governing for the people. And that's unfortunately what was very strange to me, that Speaker Pelosi didn't have a security. Speaker Pelosi insisted for us to stay in the chamber, where I personally demanded to leave that chamber. So a lot of things, the other side dropped the ball. And it was very unfortunate for me to see that. So I think this is beyond the subject of this matter, but we need to stop, accusing people that disagree with the government that been very corrupt and oppressive, to actually come here and, express peacefully their dissatisfaction. And there are always some bad players, and who knows who they are, but we don't call all people insurrectionists. This is just un-American to do it, and I'm sick and tired of the other side constantly doing it, because I knew a lot of people that were there in the crowd, and they're good Americans, patriotic, that love this country. But go further, I know that maybe, Chairman Issa said it might be a waste of time, and Hunter Biden is going to invoke the Fifth Amendment. But you know what? What he's doing right now, beyond that, it is a blatant disregard of congressional subpoena. That's how he does. He actually dares enough. No other American would show up actually in the face, of Congress and defy and say, I'm going to decide how things are going to happen. This is just disrespectful. Only someone who thinks a little too much of himself would go actually do something. People might disagree, fighting in the courts, but not in the face. As Representative Bishop said, that is actually extremely disrespectful to this institution to do what he is doing. And if we look at the matter of the fact, we can debate and try, to get attention to other issues and deliberate, but ultimately, I think that should be, and Representative Moran said that is setting up a very bad precedent. If the other side decide, that, somebody can just act like that with the Congress, they might shoot themselves in the foot, because next Congress, there could be something different, and they will be on the other side, because we're setting up a precedent, but somebody's going to decide if they're going to comply or not with the deposition subpoena. And I don't think this institution, should allow that happen. If this is a very serious impeachment inquiry, if Hunter Biden wants to explain what's happened, he has a chance to come. And it's not like in a deposition you have just one side. You have both sides, equal amount of time. Everything can be questioned. So it's a very bipartisan process, but not a 5-minute presentation that will just go until he do just here for 5 minutes talking points with his lawyers. And it's not going to really get to the subject matter, because subject matter at stake, it's extremely serious. I think we should start taking actually impeachment inquiries and proceedings much more seriously than the other side did. It's not a politics, it's not a joke. We're a serious institution, and I do not think people think that way here now. And it's unfortunately what we became. We became a circus, entertainment, and talking points, and not really looking at issues seriously. It's sad for me to see, and I think this is a reflection, on where we are heading as a republic, and it's a sad reality. But we have to decide, are we going to be adults in the room and start looking at the issues, or we're just going to do presentations here? So I think if we go to the narrow matter of the discussion, do we allow anyone to defy the congressional subpoena? And the other sides will have to make a decision how they're going to vote for that. But they might regret that they're doing politics right now. So I hope they will rethink this and support in this resolution. So I yield back.